Hello, everyone. Juxtaposition here. Do remember that you don't need to be world class and be perfect. Perfection is not required to be world class. And of course, in the land of the social media and the mainstream media, we have nothing but imperfection. All right? Anyway, as we march quickly forward to Agenda 2030's ultimatum, mandate, directive, command of tokenized world, a world where you have no control over your personal liberty, meaning your personal economics, meaning that you'll be on a social obedience, programmable token social credit system. That's where we're going. Wanted to show you a graphic example of how the mainstream media, in this case CBS, Columbia Broadcasting System, through Diane Sawyer, one of their straw dog clowns within their show, like Mike Wallace, Dan Rather, Walter Cronkite, all clowns, all clowns for CBS, the unblinking left eye of Horus, the left eye of Horus is the unblinking evil eye of CBS television or the evening news, right? And Columbia Pictures and Columbia Music. They're all militarized. All right, so this is going to do an interview here of Charlie Manson decades ago, the smartest man in the room. Now, bear in mind, this guy didn't even graduate from high school. He spent time in a Knights of Columbus orphanage with Catholic priests. You do know that that implicates Lino LaBianca and Lino's father, Pasqualino LaBianca, who are affiliated and members in good standing of the Knights of Columbus, as was Lino's brother-in-law, who was married to his older sister, Peter Smaldino and Peter DeSantis. Peter DeSantis was the managing director of the West Coast Division of Knights of Columbus. Anyway, Charlie Manson was indoctrinated there in Terre Haute, Indiana. But he spent time always being raised by babysitters or his aunt and uncle because his mother, Kathleen Maddox, was in and out of jail on a variety of charges, some of which she was never convicted of, like grand larceny. But she did spend time in the Hooskow. So young Charlie was raised by others. Anyway, he's the smartest guy in the room. He's 10,000 times smarter than Geraldo Rivera or Bill O'Reilly or Diane Sawyer or Charlie Rose, who all interviewed Charlie Manson for a fee. They always have to pay a fee, which is split between the prison that he's kept in. In this case, it's a San Quentin interview, California State Prison, San Quentin. But Charlie is continuously gave interviews during his life in state prison, and they were all paid interviews. And anyway, listen up and see how the media has turned a perfectly intelligent, uneducated, indoctrinated man and made him into a demon cult leader. But the reality is he's the smartest guy in the room, and I find myself in full agreement with him here. Now, he does pinpoint Richard Nixon and say that America sold out, during the Nixon administration. Now, I don't agree with that. There never was an America. I'd say you could trace it back to the founding of Harvard University in the year 1639, which was specifically set up by the British to create clerics and clergy as well as civic leaders to instill the mandates of the Bank of England, who in turn is beholden to Swiss bank authority. So I think Charlie was wrong, but again, it's not a perfect interview. But the rest of the interview, I think, is quite eloquent and demonstrates that Charlie Manson certainly could have represented himself at his murder trial, and he still would have lost, but it would have been a much more vigorous defense. He had a lawyer with zero courtroom experience who was actually a military intelligence contractor for Boeing. And so he had a non-lawyer who had passed the bar exam, but he wasn't a practicing attorney. He was green lighted for the trial. All right. Anyway, let's listen to Charlie Manson, whose real name is No Name Maddox, named after his 14-year-old mother, Kathleen Maddox. All right, listen up.
The United States is owned by foreign corporations. Nixon opened it up for foreign trade. And when Nixon opened up for foreign trade, the people of Europe and the common market in Spain and different places, they don't care about the United States forest. And in short, the United States has been sold out by people who really don't care for anything but money.
This is one of those videos where after you listen to it, you pause for a moment and ask yourself, wait, did he really just say that? Like, did those words really come from that person? The fact of the matter is truth, no matter who it comes from. I want you to separate the message from the messenger and just listen. What Charles Manson said here is 100% true.
I've had all the money in the world 3 times. I had to give it back to keep the game going.
What game?
The game. It's a game. Money is a game. It's only real to the people who work for it. The people that don't need to work for money, it's a monopoly game. It's a game of paper. It's all on paper. I've got a production company, and I've got a recording company, and I've got a mansion in Beverly Hills, and I've got Rolls Royces and Ferraris. I've got everything money can buy, but it's all on paper. Everything's done through the companies and through the tax loopholes, and the people that live on that level, they don't care about the average honest mule that just goes back and forwards to work. They don't care about the children that are in the streets that are thrown out of this upper echelon of existence. And then when all the children fall down into me, on my level, I pretty much identify with them because I was a throwaway also. So it goes to the point of, do you really care?
When you said...
And who does care? And if anybody cares, they're considered crazy. I've been 15 years in the nut ward for trying to stop the trees from being cut down, from trying to rearrange a lifestyle of a bunch of people who don't want to change, but they're going to change because the cold wind is blowing.
Now, to be honest, when you listen to that, it's surprising. Hearing those words like that come from someone like Charles Manson is something most people would never expect. But if you really pay attention, some of what he's talking about is something a lot of people already feel. The idea that money runs everything, that power sits in certain places, and the average person is just out here trying to keep up working, paying bills, trying to survive. And sometimes it feels like the people at the top don't even see you. Or maybe they do see you. They just don't care. I'm sure there are a lot of people who agree with what Charles was saying there. People have been talking about the same things for years, about corporations, about money, about the gap between the powerful and everyday people. And the crazy part is, those same problems are still here today. Nothing really changed, and you have to ask yourself why. Why does it stay like this? Well, maybe because the people who benefit from the system want the system to stay exactly the way it is. That's just the reality. When people start questioning how society is organized, who wins, who struggles, who gets left behind, it usually comes from frustration. Sometimes anger too. Because when you're the one living through it every day, it hits different. An ordinary American doesn't have it easy. Life is tough. Everything is expensive. People are working more hours than ever. And somehow it still feels like you're just trying to stay afloat. Meanwhile, there are people playing a completely different game. And that's something Charles actually pointed out in that clip. To some people, money is survival. To others, it's just a game. A paper game. And once you start looking at the world that way, a lot of things start to make more sense. You realize the system wasn't really built for the average person to win big. It was built to keep the machine running. And most people are just part of the machine.